Hi everyone, what are stem changing verbs and why do we call them stem changing verbs? They only exist because we have regular verbs. So in this lesson we're going to review regular verbs, we're going to look at stem changing verbs and why we call them stem changing verbs. We're going to learn a super important stem changing verb in Spanish, the verb querer, which means to want. We're going to look at all of its forms. Then towards the end of the lesson, we're going to practice with it. We're going to put it in context and practice with it. And finally, towards the very end, I'm going to give you some ideas about how you can begin thinking in Spanish. If you're trying to make that jump to get to the place where you are not translating, that's double the work. You don't need to do that. You can just begin thinking in Spanish, and I'm going to show you some practical ways on how you can do that. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing is we need to look at regular verbs. The only reason we're talking about stem changing verbs is because regular verbs exist. So what is a regular verb? Well, remember the verb hablar is a regular verb. This means to talk or to speak. And to find the root or the stem, you remove the AR if it's an AR verb. And what you see here, this is what we call the root or the stem. So this is a regular verb. So we just call it regular verbs. The stem, nothing happens to the stem when you put it in its different forms. Now, if I conjugate this verb, all I'm doing is adding these endings for, in this case, the endings for AR verbs that you have to memorize. There's absolutely no way around it. You just have to memorize them. Native speakers memorize this through practice. So at some point you have to do this if you haven't already done it. Okay, so when I attach these endings to this stem, I get these forms. I have hablo, hablas, habla, hablamos, habláis, and hablan. Remember that the H is silent in hablar, so you're not going to hear it. Okay, so this is what we call a regular verb, and it's a regular verb because the root or the stem doesn't change. Notice that H-A-B-L, 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 it's the same in every form. So this is a regular verb. So now that you know what regular verbs are, then we can talk about stem changing verb. Stem changing verb is just that. When you conjugate the verb, the root or the stem is going to change. So let's take the verb querer. Querer is a stem changing verb. If I want to find the root or the stem, I remove the ER in this case. Remember, infinitives either end at AR, ER, or IR, and that's it. So you always remove the AR, the ER, or the IR to get the root or the stem. So I'm going to remove it, and I have this here, quer. But because it's a stem changing verb, sometimes, in some of the forms, it's going to be QUER, but in other forms, it's going to be QUIER. So there's a pattern here. We call this pattern E to IE stem changers. So when you conjugate this verb, you're going to have to either use this form or this form, this stem or this stem. Notice the stem changed. That's why we call it a stem changing verb. So let's go ahead and see how this stem changing verb works in the present tense. Okay, so we're going to start with the subject pronoun I. So if I want to say I want in Spanish, notice that this form has the changed stem. So we use quiere as our stem because it's a stem changing verb. Why? It just does change. That's the rule. So we add the ending that you've memorized already, and we have yo quiero. I want. Yo quiero. If my subject is tú, you, we have quiere, and then we add the ER verb ending, which is ES. And we have quieres. Tú quieres. You want. This stem is also changed. For usted, él, or ella, quiere, also the changed stem. We add the ending, quiere. So usted quiere, you want. Él quiere, he wants. Ella quiere, she wants. Nosotros, we. This does not have the changed stem. It's quiere. So we add our ending for nosotros, and we have queremos. Vosotros, which is used in Spain. Remember, this is you, plural. You would use this addressing two or more friends or family members, people that you know well. This does not have the change. And we add our ending, which is es. Queréis. You want. Vosotros queréis. Ustedes, ellos, or ellas. This one does have the change stem. And we add our ending, quieren. So, ustedes quieren, you want. Ellos quieren, they want. Ellas quieren. So, looking at all of the forms, you can see that the forms that don't change are the nosotros and the vosotros. So, all of the other forms have the stem change, and the nosotros and the vosotros preserve the original stem. Okay, and that's it. That's going to be consistent with stem changing verbs, other stem changing verbs. It'll follow this pattern. The change will occur in all of the forms except for nosotros and vosotros. Okay, so just a note about the meaning. When I say yo quiero, it means I want, because we're talking, this is in the present tense, we're talking in the present tense. But remember that verbs in the present tense can have more than one meaning. So yo quiero can mean I want, it can mean I do want, or I am wanting, just depending on the context. The same thing for tú quieres, you want, you do want, you are wanting. Él quiere, he wants, he does want, he is wanting, and so forth and so on. So each of the forms can have more than one meaning, just depending on context. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. Now, the next logical step is to start to put this into context. In other words, we don't just say quiero by itself, we use some other word to tell you, for example, if I say quiero, I need to tell you what it is that I want. So I would need a noun. So I'm just arbitrarily choosing some food vocabulary here. So I could say something like, I want the salad. Let's say I'm at a restaurant. I could say, quiero la ensalada. I want the salad. Or I want the chicken. Quiero el pollo. Or I want the fish. Quiero el pescado. I want the sandwich. Quiero el sándwich, or in some countries they might use the term bocadillo or la torta. Quiero el sándwich, quiero el bocadillo, quiero la torta. I can also use another form besides yo quiero. I could say tú quieres la ensalada, you want the salad. Tú quieres el pollo, you want the chicken. Tú quieres el pescado, you want the fish. Tú quieres el sándwich, you want the sandwich. Or I could say she wants the salad. Ella quiere la ensalada. She wants the chicken. Ella quiere el pollo. She wants the fish. Ella quiere el pescado. Ella quiere el sándwich. We want, queremos. We want the salad. Queremos la ensalada. Queremos el pollo. Queremos el pescado. Queremos el sándwich. They want, ellos quieren. Ellos quieren la ensalada. Ellos quieren el pollo. Ellos quieren el pescado. Ellos quieren el sándwich. And there you have it. There you have a lot of possibilities, lots of things that you can say by using the verb querer. Querer is a very useful verb in Spanish because you can express a lot of ideas with it. So you can say that you want something. You can also say that you want to do something. So instead of a noun here, we can also use some infinitives, some verbs. So for example, if I want to say, I want to rest, I would say quiero descansar. I want to study, quiero estudiar. I want to walk, quiero caminar. I want to play, quiero jugar. Quieres, you want. You want to rest, quieres descansar. You want to study, quieres estudiar. You want to walk, quieres caminar. You want to play, quieres jugar. Ella quiere, she wants. Ella quiere descansar. Ella quiere estudiar. Ella quiere caminar. Ella quiere jugar. Queremos descansar. Queremos estudiar. Queremos caminar. Queremos jugar. Ellos quieren. They want to rest. Ellos quieren descansar. Ellos quieren estudiar. Ellos quieren caminar. Ellos quieren jugar. So you can do a lot with this verb. So here's the last thing that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. It's time probably, if you're not already doing it, you might be doing it, and that's great. It's time to begin just thinking solely in Spanish. You'll often hear teachers, professors say, you got to think in the language. You got to start thinking in the language. Forget about your native language. And the question always is, well, how can I do that if I'm learning the language? And it's really simple. One, you just kind of have to use your imagination. But two, you have to just learn a little bit of vocabulary. Once you know what querer means, and once you know how to conjugate it, you don't have to go back to English or any other language. Just stick with the verb, you know what it means, and then once you know a little bit of vocabulary, then you can really start thinking in the language. So imagine you're at a restaurant. Use your imagination. You're at a restaurant, you're looking at the menu, and you point to the picture of the salad. You could say, quiero la ensalada. Then point to the chicken and say, quiero el pollo, or the fish, quiero el pescado, or the sandwich, quiero el sandwich. Just keep going through all of the different items. Forget about whatever other language. If it's English, forget about English. Just think only in Spanish, and you can do it. Cycle through all the possibilities in your mind, and that's the way that you think and you practice with the language. Here's another scenario. Think about things that you want to do. You don't need to even say it, for example, in English. Just think of an activity. Imagine yourself resting and just tell yourself, quiero descansar. Imagine yourself studying. Then just say to yourself, no quiero estudiar. Imagine yourself walking. Say, quiero caminar. Or playing a game of something, whatever. You could say, quiero jugar. And just think of as many possibilities that your vocabulary allows you to think of, and practice that way with the language. That's one way to do it. It's not the only way, but it's the old-fashioned way, and it's the way that it was done before technology to help you with learning. So try it out, see if it helps you. And that's it for this lesson. Thanks so much for watching. If you found this helpful, I would appreciate it very much if you'd give it a like. If you know someone else that's learning Spanish and you think this might benefit them, please share. If you haven't already subscribed, subscribe. And thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson. To continue on to another lesson, click on the video that appears here on your screen, and I hope to see you soon. Hasta pronto.